Etana smakato wa hakiete koanu ande. Okay. Well, lately I've been experimenting with smoking DMT, microdosing it to some degree, and right now I'm about to continue my experimentation with it. Eiku sayeno te yaka saupe hamotra te kawa humane amanungu setaye hapeta chandre katai eo kupasete kana ye konata hakumo take nawa epete katomawa umene yahupaya umena kesetana hakuateyata kauate tanja hapuaiyata auateneya kaumahita chakuyeyama apeya humaka ukiya humesa hateya kowacha umuwate ewa kateyana haumakaseyane hakuwate nasauaietana hakuateyana kato asetena kauateyana kauatechana hauasetrana kutuateyana ayatomata hukua hieta amaukuteana sakuateyeteana akuapeana hakuaneya sakuiaupata hakuanateya noa mneya uasa Eamawawahuna Eamawakahisa. Too many things in my life feel like they're polluting my soul, my mind, my body. What seems like the biggest struggle in my life right now is reducing time spent doing these activities that seem to at least feel like, at least they feel like they're polluting my soul. It just feels like a form of degeneracy. I struggle with things like, and it's weird. It's hard to say it's a struggle. It seems to be what I feel like doing, but how I feel afterwards it just doesn't. feel correct for me, or I just don't like the way it feels. It feels like I'm losing health. I'm losing my sense of well-being, but I don't know, I can't see that I'm gaining from the loss. So it just feels like uh, it just feels like a big negative in my life. And for me, these are things like I like to play this game called World of Warcraft, and it's fun to play, but there's something about it that just doesn't make me feel good when I turn it off. My body just doesn't feel as well. My brain, my soul, I feel like I sacrificed part of it. It feels like it's become it. The game feels like it cripples my spirit, my soul. I kind of associate spirit and soul with sense of well-being, and it's not just video games. It's porn also, like, and I don't think I have an addiction to porn. People talk about how you know, talk about porn being an addiction for them sometimes. And I've looked at a lot of porn my whole life. I've looked at porn since I saw it for the first time when I was probably 11. And I really, I really liked it. My body liked it. And I guess that's what I am. I guess I'm my body, huh? Of course, people will try and say differently, but do they really know any better than me? And based off my experience, this form, this body of mine, this is who and what I am. My soul, my spirit is an extension of my body. And I see that I see no evidence of otherwise. I haven't experienced any evidence otherwise. And at the end of the day, I'm not going to go off of what other people say. I'm going to go off of what my experience is, my interpretation of it, granted. And so, yeah, go back to addiction and porn. Like, I think if I didn't have the kind of awareness I do, and I'm not saying my awareness is great or correct, but the way that I view things, like, I don't see porn as an addiction for me. I kind of see it as like there's something that my body needs or desires. And porn is just like a cheap way to satisfy myself. And this is also how I see World of Warcraft, the video game. Like, it's a cheap way to satisfy a need that my body has that it doesn't seem to be able to get otherwise. And with porn, like, if I'm having sex with my partner a lot, if we consistently have sex, I don't feel a desire to look at porn. I've been in my current relationship for 4 years, and I haven't looked at porn very much. A lot of these, for many months, I wouldn't look at porn because I was so sexually satisfied. And I would even feel satisfied for weeks after sex. Like, I wouldn't feel a need for sex for weeks if we had really good, deep, loving sex. And one thing I've really learned from my current relationship with my partner is that we really trust each other and we have what I consider a loving relationship. And because of that, I feel like I'm able to go deeper with her when we have sex. And I feel more satisfied from that. And since I feel more satisfied sexually, my sex drive is satiated. Don't feel, I rarely have felt a desire to look at porn at all. But the past few months, some things went down in our relationship that, you know, made it so we haven't felt like having sex as much. And my sex drive has been really high, but since we don't mutually both want sex, it's a little side story. I don't really like having sex with people that don't feel like having sex with me. Like, that's I know it might seem obvious. I don't know how it is for everybody because nobody really talks about this in any deeper way. But like, I really don't want to have sex with people that don't want to have sex with me. And when it comes to my partner, like, I need to see that she is in the mood. Like, her sex drive is lifted and she desires to have sex with me. That's important for me to want to have sex with her. But granted, my sex drive doesn't go off of her schedule. And again, something happened a few months ago where that made us having sex more complicated. So we haven't had sex barely at all for like 3 or 4 months, and my sex drive has, it was okay at first, but it slowly got more and more intense. My body seems to want good sex, like loving, deep, trusting, feeling connection in an intimate sexual way. And it hasn't got that. And now my sex drive is it's just really, you could say bothersome, but like it's just really intense. And it's like I need to get something out of my body. And I'm sure a lot of guys can relate to this. And so I've been looking at porn a lot more lately. Um, and something will happen like after a week of looking at porn, sometimes every day, sometimes every other day, where I just don't feel like masturbating anymore to it or at all, or I can control it because even now I pay attention down to my sacral area, and I can feel my sex drive is like it's ready, it's ready to get down, but it seems to be flowing in a more healthy, maybe dispersed, like the energy maybe is more dispersed. And that's something I've been learning a lot about. But sorry, I'm going off on tangents. But the sex drive, I think it's maybe it's obvious, but it's a huge factor to why somebody. I can only speak from personal experience, so I'll just speak for myself. It's the reason why I want to look at porn when I'm not sexually satisfied. Porn becomes the solution. And when I'm having sex with my partner consistently, like, and again, if it's good sex, like I am sexually satisfied for longer periods of time, and I have no desire to look at porn in between those spaces. And so I really think like it's possible, just again going off my own experience, that people's addiction to porn is just them trying to fulfill a need for deep, intimate sexual connection with another partner, and they don't have that. And it's the same thing, going back to the video games, like with World of Warcraft, it's a game where you're playing online with other people and you're on a team fighting against, computer monsters, you could say. And your team relies on you and you rely on them. You all have essential roles in your team. And you're leveling up, you're getting better equipment, better weapons, and better armor that contributes to your team, and vice versa. They're also getting that stuff as you kill these monsters and you level up. And so it's kind of a tribal communal experience where you are literally needed by other people to to advance, to continue through the game. And I really feel like that is something that's lacking in society, at least that again, going back to personal experience, it's all I can really go off of at the end of the day. But that's something that I feel like for me, if I just really pay attention to the things that make me feel well and don't, I feel like I'm missing the experience of feeling like I'm needed. And I don't want people to like feel bad for me and be like, "Oh, you're needed, you're important." It's like, "Nah, fuck off." Like I don't need to hear that shit. I don't need people to tell me that I'm needed or wanted or whatever. Like I'm I'm paying attention to needs that I see that my body has, their feelings, and I can just imagine like back in a more tribal setting where each person in the tribe had an essential role to everybody's existence, you know? And we just don't have that in the same way anymore. Like humans are a dime a dozen. That's just the reality that we live in. I mean, of course we do need we can give each other emotional support in this time of extreme change. Uh, but it's just not the same. And I can't talk from super deep experience because I haven't like gone and experimented with being in a tribal setting, but I have done some survival classes where I've done two, and one of them was in the winter, and it was me and two other guys. And, one person went and got the wood because we were going to camp overnight out in the snow in the middle of the mountains, and it was freezing. And so one person goes and gather the wood and the other two people are trying to start a fire together. And I was, helping my friends start a fire, and we're experimenting with doing it the old fashioned way where you use you use friction to start the fire. So you have a string and you have different types of wood and you have to cut them up in a certain way. So we had to do all that, cut everything up, and our hands are really cold, but it was way easier with more people there. I can only imagine doing it on your own, like how stressful, how hard that is to do all the tasks that are needed to help you survive in the wilderness. And if I felt very connected with them, and there was something like that was very fulfilling about it. So that is my very light core version of being in a tribal setting. I would like to see the option for people to go in and have an experience of being in a tribe, to live the tribal way, like have it be some sort of like adventure or resort thing that somebody sets up. That's something I would like to see brought to fruition in the world. Because I think, to quote my mom, we've thrown the baby out with the bathwater a little too many times with in history, and we've lost a lot of really amazing things. And I really think like a lot of, you know, again, I really can only talk from personal experience, but I seem to project out into the world. It seems like a lot of people's problems, and my problem included, is that we don't really have an important purpose in our tribal, in our family setting. Like it's just hard to compensate for what I imagine we really need to feel fulfilled in a social communal way. So it's hard for me to, you know, I'll probably continue to bring this up, but it's hard. It seems to be a challenge for me to talk about what I want to in a long format and then come back to the main point. So part of me doing this, talking into I'm in this room by myself, talking into a camera, and sure, this may go out to the world and maybe somebody will watch it. But I just have a hard time bringing the point back around. And I feel like what I want to see, partly what I want to see for myself from doing this practice of talking into a camera about my thoughts and ideas is I want to see I want to see myself developmentally so I can come back to points more easily. I can go off on long tangents like I just did and come back to the original point, because honestly, I don't even know what it was. So it's like this video just kind of feels like it's fucked. And whatever. Just smoke some more DMT. It's weird how DMT's always been so scary sounding, and now I'm smoking it every freaking day. Like it's weed or something. For some reason, when I first started really experimenting with DMT about a month ago, like when I would smoke it, it would feel pretty uncomfortable in my body, and that's always like the scary thing with smoking DMT. It feels like, it's very shocking feeling. And a lot of psychedelics, the beginning of them, there is kind of a shocking feeling to your body. And DMT's maybe the most shocking because it comes up so quickly. But this past week, every time I smoke, and granted, I'm just smoking microdoses, but this feeling that it creates in my body hasn't been shocking as much. Maybe it's because I'm just getting used to it, or maybe it's because something in my lifestyle has changed. But I'm really liking it, and it still is a little unnerving feeling. Like I definitely need to like be very present, and that's also partly why I smoke, is because it makes me very present. Anybody who knows me knows I'm a big, I think proponent's the right word, of psychedelics. Like I push them, and I think I think psychedelics are a really great thing for humanity, and I think it's really valuable to spread them and to as many people as possible. And of course, to only the people that want to do them, I've learned the hard way. Like it's not good to try and get somebody to do something they don't want to do, they're not ready for. And when I first got into psychedelics, I really push them on people like my mom, and my mom's happy with the way her life is, and she doesn't really care for, you know, drastic changes. And we have a great relationship still, but I really had to kind of learn the hard way that wanting people to do something because you think it'll change them for the better makes people feel like you don't like them the way they are and you want them to change. And it might be true to some degree, but I think if I really sit with it, like, I really want to accept everyone the way they are and not try and change them. And I've come to learn that I can accept people for the way they are if I can also accept their potential suffering, because part of my desire to change people is I don't want to see them go down a path of deep suffering. And I have these ideas that if you don't live a certain way and go in a certain direction, you'll suffer really deeply. And these are just ideas. At the end of the day, if I can be conscious of it and pay attention to what I'm doing and what I'm thinking and what I'm projecting out there, like, these things aren't, I can't, I can't predict the future. And I've come to it seems that I've come to be okay with other people's suffering and even my own. And maybe that's the thing that's made me be more okay with other people's suffering is being okay with my own suffering. Um, Again, like, I don't know what the fucking point is of where I started with this and where it's going. So fuck. Guess I'll just smoke some more DMT. I don't really see visuals unless I smoke a lot. If I smoke a lot of DMT, I'll see an eyeball. Well, I won't just see an eyeball, I'll see like lots of crazy colors and, you know, um, you see paintings of like psychedelic and DMT trips with all the just crazy, unexplainable moving parts and shapes. But there's one thing that I see that's very consistent, and it's an eyeball. And it's like I'm moving through a room of moving colors. Like the walls are moving colors, this room I'm moving through. And then there's an eyeball that just like comes into the screen and it's like that. And even though I'm moving through the room, the eyeball is always the same distance from me. It's just like as I'm moving through the room. And it's like very fluid moving. And I've seen this multiple times. I don't see it right now. I'm just imagining and explaining it to you. But I've seen this when I've gone the deepest I've gone in DMT, this is what I see. And, DMT seems like it can be really amazing for a lot of people. From what I've heard, from stories I've heard from other people, like DMT can be really amazing. It can really help you break out of your state and help you see yourself from a different position. And I remember smoking DMT with one friend once, and it was actually our first time. We smoked chenga, which is DMT mixed with ayahuasca leaves and other herbs. We smoked it, and he started like crying, and it was so amazing for him and for me. Like, I was just laying there, and I saw tentacles coming down from the ceiling. I wasn't scared of them. It was just a weird thing to see. They were just kind of like coming down in a spiral, and then it wasn't like too crazy, but he was having this life-changing experience, like purging something emotionally, or it seems. And I've heard of a lot of other people like having life-changing experiences on DMT. I don't remember their stories, but I've never experienced that on DMT. I like the way it makes me feel. It helps to break me into a new state of feeling, and it does something to my brain that it just changes it somehow, changes my mind. And it's short. So, in a few minutes, I'm gonna be back to being, I guess you could call it sober, completely sober. And so it's nice to have these short experiences for me. One thing I've noticed, or an idea I have about DMT, is that I've done a lot of psychedelic or, to me, a lot of psychedelics. I've drank ayahuasca, maybe over 100 times in ceremonies. And I've done large 5 gram, 7 gram mushroom trips countless times. And same with LSD. These are my three main things I've experienced the most. I think, and I've had very transformational experiences on specifically mushrooms and ayahuasca, very transformational experiences. I purged a lot of things, a lot of shame. I've gained a lot of understanding about myself and about my mind. And I feel like ayahuasca specifically has opened my heart up. It just feels like every time I drink ayahuasca afterwards, after the experience, like it feels like my heart's been opened a little more every single time. And it's a beautiful thing. It's also a hard thing when you come back to this unforgiving society, I like to put it. But anyways, I'm going off on a tangent. DMT, I think, is really transformational for people when they're new to psychedelics. Since I've had all these transformational experiences already, like, and then I came to DMT after I've already done mushrooms and ayahuasca quite a decent amount and LSD. And I think since I already had a lot of these really transformational experiences, DMT didn't have any as much to like work with. It didn't really have anything for it to do besides maybe give me an interesting, different point of view of myself. And so I would really suggest people that are new to psychedelics, like DMT is probably going to be a lot more impactful and possibly a really positive way. I mean, of course, you never know how psychedelics are going to affect you. Like they affect everybody slightly different and maybe some people drastically different. So, you'd have to experiment for yourself. But from what I've seen in myself and other people, it seems like the newcomers to the psychedelic world, DMT has a lot more potential for them. And, it's also really short and you can microdose it. If you're new to psychedelics and you're scared, you can take a tiny little puff, just a tiny little puff, and, make sure you inhale it in your lungs and then just sit there and see how it makes you feel. And if you took a small enough puff like what I just did, you might not feel anything, but but now you're slowly gaining awareness of how it affects your body. And, just wait a minute, maybe. It should come up almost instantly. Maybe you only need to wait 30 seconds. If you're not feeling anything in 30 seconds, that's probably enough. And, if you're not feeling anything in 30 seconds, try taking another hit and take a little bigger one. You can't see the smoke, but I can taste that I got something. And now I'm feeling it more. And, I can still do anything if I wanted. Last night I was hiking in the woods, feeling like a shaman, on that point. I was wearing my poncho thing that makes me look like some, I don't know if I look like a homeless man or some spiritual hippie dude, but I try to let people know I'm not going to kill them, when I walk by them because I'm not sure how they see me. But I was smoking DMT out there and I could walk on it, just fine. I could take little puffs and walk. And I did feel more connected to nature. And I had some really deep, awesome thoughts that I would like to share. Maybe I will one day if I ever remember them again. I really like this pipe. Something about just the way it looks and the way it feels, the wood. I'm kind of a naturalist. So maybe it's just particular to me, but something I just like about this. Yeah. Brand's Pulsar. I don't know what the pipe's called, but you look up Pulsar pipes and you look at their site, you'll find it.